Hello, and thank you for joining us for another episode of That Solo Life, the podcast for PR pros and marketers who work for themselves. My name is Michelle Kane. My company is Voice Matters, and I am here not only with my incredible co-host Karen Swim of Solo PR Pro, but we have a very special guest. But first, hey Karen, how are you?
I'm doing great, Michelle. Thank you. And I'm really excited about our guest today, who is from your neck of the woods.
He is. So I live out in the Philly burbs. So I'm not Philly proper, I'm Philly adjacent. But our guest today is Jeff Lyons. He is half of the podcasting duo with his partner Chip. They host a podcast called Junk Miles. And what he might be better known for about now is a little thing called the Fraud Street Run. I don't know if any of our listeners beyond this neck of the woods have been paying attention to what's been going on in Philly, but Four Seasons Total Landscaping should ping something to you. It was site of an infamous post-election press conference. And from that, an amazing charity run, both in person and virtual, was born. Welcome, Jeff. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Michelle, for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
That's wonderful. Oh my gosh. So, tell us you saw all the crazy go down. So just a short version for our listeners who might not know.
You want to give you a whirlwind recap, but the crazy thing that went down at Four Seasons Total Landscaping that Saturday. On the day itself, I had no idea what was going on because, we were all very interested in the election results. Once they came in, the next day I went running with my friend. I'm a runner. My friend Gerard's a running coach, and we were just talking, and he mentioned the landscaping thing with Giuliani, and it was really hard to comprehend what happened. It was so ridiculous in nature. And I just said to Gerard jokingly, hey, we should run there someday because we're always looking for new places to run to and to run from and to. Next day I go online and I fully ingest the story, and I still can't believe it. I'm still kind of like, wow, that's just crazy. And then I'm talk to Gerard again via text. I'm like, yeah, we should run there just to see what it's all about. Got off the chat with him, and I said, basically with any run I do, I go on and I map it. I use Map My Run, and I'm like, okay, where should I start? And then I'm like, hey, I could start at the Four Seasons and run to the other Four Seasons. And then once that clicked, I kind of went into this kind of dream hyper mode, like, all right, we need to do something with this. So like any kind of, viral idea, I just simply created a quick map, posted it to Twitter, and I tagged some of my friends in the running community who are, I would say, prominent in the Philly area, and also nationally. Like my one friend, Jen, she writes about running for New York Times. My one friend, Rebecca, she created races in the Philly area. So I just said, hey, guys, is this possible? And right away, like everyone's like, oh, my God. And I think the key bit of marketing that went with it was, what would we call this run? And literally within minutes, people responded with Fraud Street Run, a play on words of Broad Street Run. Broad Street Run is one of the biggest races, not only in Philadelphia, but I believe it's still the sixth biggest race in the United States in terms of attendance.
Wow. And I don't believe it was allowed to happen this year because of the pandemic, correct?
Yes, correct.
So, we needed a little something.
We needed a new run, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I so love the running community because they are right on top of it, and they're always up for anything. They're super creative and collaborative, and it's not hard to convince runners to go for a run anywhere.
Oh yeah, totally.
But I love how this kind of just emanated from you using Map My Run. I love Map My Run. That's so cool that seeing the route just sort of, inspired this brainstorm. Now, Jeff, are you in marketing normally have you done marketing? Because this came together really well.
Yeah, it was kind of, I relied on not only like I work full time. I'm a assistant director of web development at Penn, and I work with the marketing department. So I build, manage websites, new technology, and I've been doing, side gigs. I started podcasting in about 2005, hosting live shows, comedy events, stuff of that nature. So I'm always, I'd say, more on the side of guerrilla marketing, and I think that really helped me in this specific event.
I love that. I think one of the things that our listeners would love to hear is, something like this. It was a highly visible error on the president from the president's campaign team
Mm-hmm.
that they quickly pivoted and said, "No, we meant to book there," and that was out. But sometimes people in PR and marketing are afraid to leverage high visibility events like this for fear of backlash. So, talk me through, like, did you think about that? Like, could this be seen as like a terrible thing? Did you have any trepidation, or did you just go for it?
Initially, I just went for it with the mindset that, hey, this is going to be me and 10 friends running on a Sunday, maybe raising $100, $200. We all chip in. But then when it went viral on Twitter and like Jake Tapper from CNN said, let's do this, and contacted me saying, hey, how can I help? I really wanted to create a message, and the message was, let's be positive. Something dumb happened. We'll make it dumber, as we do in Philadelphia. I really want to be dumb and positive about it. And I think part of that message, and I conferred with Chip right away. I'm like, let's make this a charity event. Let's not go low. Whatever negative thing there is about this, and there is, it could be partisan politics, let's stay away from it. Let's just turn this into something positive and fun. It's what we're good at. So I think from a marketing point of view, it took on a life of its own once we said, hey, we want to raise money for a charity. Right away, we thought of Philabundance, which is just an amazing charity in the Philadelphia area. I volunteered there a couple of times via work, so I knew what a good company, how the money goes in, how they spend it, how they deliver food to people. So, yeah, initially it was just impulsive. And the thing was, you had to do it quick. Anything when you're doing this sort of viral online guerrilla marketing, you got to get out quick and strike while the fire is hot, the iron's hot. And that's what I had to do. So within those 2 to 3 days, it was, people are like, yeah, I'll do this run. I'll donate. I want a t-shirt. So that night I'm like, all right, I have to create a logo. Not only that, I have to figure out a way to get t-shirts made. And as you both know, when you're in a pressure situation like that, you rely on all the contacts you've made over the years. Right. So I went to my friends. I'm like, hey, you do t-shirts really well. Who do you use? All right, I'll use them. And that's basically what I did within a 2 or 3 day period. Relied on other professionals, especially, like I said earlier, my friends in the running community who have created races and who have created fun nonsense events as well.
And
I love this.
Yeah, and the branding is great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And the logo literally was, I started out in web design in the 90s, building websites on my own, designing them, and I moved more into the development end. So I do have design background, and I said, I'm going to look at the Broad Street Run logo, and I'm not going to rip it off totally. I'm going to do a nice, based on parody laws, that I could just swap out their main image with a goofy lightning bolt, and threw that together, got it on a t-shirt, and within a day, the t-shirt sales were just crazy, as well as the donations to Philabundance.
I've got mine. Oh,
thank you so much. We really appreciate your support.
For a Christmas gift. I'm all about it. My wardrobe has grown with all the great cottage industry of t-shirts with these.
Yes. I just read that the Four Seasons Total Landscaping, I think their sales were over $1 million in t-shirt sales.
Isn't that amazing? I have said all along, especially in our wacky area, our snark and our savvy of just being able to laugh at anything will save us. And man, did we ever come through? Who knew? I didn't lay out that expectation. But
Yeah, it's crazy.
The one on the Philly Twitter, and my life has never been the same.
it is interesting. Yeah.
It is very interesting. Jeff, so tell us, grand total, how much money was raised for this kooky run?
Yeah, like I said, we're envisioning a couple $100, and then once, after a day, basically the idea of the run is, in runner's parlance, it's called a fat ass run, which means you show up on a day. Yeah. There's no aid stations, there's no medals, there's no T-shirts. You show up, there's a course, you run it, you finish it, you do it on your own. That was our idea with this. Once we realized, I put a registration up on the site. Hey, if you're interested, just let us know. Where it started going, in the hundreds and over 1,000. I'm like, well, we all can't group together on one day to do this because of COVID. We want to be safe. We want to have, social distancing. So we turned into a viral event. And I think that's what really kicked it up another notch, that you can run 11 miles anywhere you want. If you're in Maryland, you're in Oregon, you're in the UK, you're in Singapore. And I'm mentioning all these places because people ran in these places.
Nice.
Pick out an 11-mile-ish course, and you can run it, you can walk it, you can cheat, you could take a cab because it's a Fraud Street run.
That is
and I
the
think
best.
That jokey kind of nature, and again, with a positive message, really helped spread the word. And I also think people were very excited. There was kind of a positivity and a hopefulness right during this time. Biden won the election, the pandemic, a vaccination was announced. And I think people were just really happy and they wanted to embrace something good. And we kind of caught part of that feeling of hope.
Yeah. And I think too, it gave everyone something positive to do. And, when in these months where we might have felt kind of helpless and, just kind of in this limbo of, we can't affect positive change, but I can donate $10 or $20 to a food bank and get some exercise and feel like I've accomplished something. So you said Singapore. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I buried the lead too. You asked me how much money we should donate.
Oh, that's right. We never got to that.
I just checked as of today, direct donations. What I did, I went on Philabundance website, set up a page right on their website. Anyone can do it. So if you're looking to do a charity thing and you want to donate money, just set up a page on their website. We've raised $54,000 so far.
Fantastic.
That's fantastic. Amazing. So from your original, hey, we'll raise a couple of hundred, you raised $52,000. That's just cool. And I think what I really want our listeners to take away from this is you work in an industry where there's a plan and there's lots of checks and balances, there's wireframes, there's all of this research, and we do a lot behind the scenes to pull off successful events or successful projects. And we could try to develop something that goes viral. I know every client thinks that everything can go viral, but it doesn't. That you just met a moment and you learned along the way and kept making adjustments based on demand. And I think, for me, the takeaway is don't ever be afraid to lean into those, opportune moments, because they don't come around all the time, and be willing to adjust and to pivot and to learn and even to fail along the way, because your motive was never about for yourself. It was very unselfish, like, hey, let's take this moment, let's do some good with it. And with your eye on that ball, you just continue to adjust as you went along. I think that's amazing.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
That's part of it. It's that first 3 days where you really have to be willing to just change your, model of how you're doing things. Like when we realized how big it was getting, I got nervous and I'm like, we can't have everyone gather together. It was simple as going on a group text with the people I mentioned before and saying, we should just go viral, right? And this having them and my wife, I'm in the basement, I'm running upstairs. Kel, what about this? What about this? And she's like, yeah, go with that. And then, just those quick decisions, implement them. And by implementing, I mean, then go online and you're like, I hope everybody's happy with this, putting out that tweet, putting out that Facebook post, and then getting initial feedback. And I think, Karen, you mentioned, like most of my projects at work are a year and a half. You schedule in, pre-work testing, feedback. Like with this, you just hope the feedback's good. And if it's not, you tweak it again. But it was 3 days where you just threw it out there. And luckily, like I'd say 95% good happened with it. Like there was initially we were like, hey, we might get some negative feedback due to the partisan nature that some people perceive, but there's very little of that I saw. People were just, on board.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And
Joe and I have talked a lot on the show about no matter what you do, there's going to be haters in this. So you just learn to work with them.
And I think too, like you said, having a plan, it's so important to keep in mind, even in the workplace, when these opportunities come up, not to just, because speaking for myself, if you're so laser focused on, nope, this is the plan, we've got to work it. Sometimes you bat these serendipitous things away, right? Just like, no, we can't indulge in that. But take a beat, think about it. I think that is key,
Yeah, I think I've learned that at Penn, the marketing group I work with. Mm-hmm. One thing I'd say about them, again, it's like you put year or two into most big projects, 6 months into a campaign. They're very entrepreneurial there. If you have an idea, you see something, especially, a zeitgeist moment that's going on, and you can tie into that. The nice part is you can just beta test things with a tweet, as opposed to like, all right, now we're going to try an email campaign, or now we're going to try, maybe do some billboards at, 30th Street Station. If the tweet you put out that you tie in your program to get some heat, get some, notoriety, you're like, all right, maybe we can build off this. So I was lucky enough the last 14 years working in a very big organization, but also a very entrepreneurial spirit, which helped me, especially with this project.
Oh, definitely. That's great. And it certainly cultivates that nice hybrid just way of thinking and processing and working things out, which you don't often find in large organizations. A lot of
totally. I've been on the other end. Before I was in higher ed, I was in just business consulting, do it for web work, and that's a completely different ball game.
Yeah, pivoting is not heard of. So, what would you say? Did you have any surprises, like any unplanned aspects that aside from the whole thing being so guerrilla?
Yeah, I think the surprise was, boy, I really had to learn to manage my Gmail account.
Can you teach us how to tame our email?
Oh my God. The nice part is, like, literally so many different people reached out, and they were all, to a person, amazing, wanting to help. Not a lot of, hey, how can I get in on, ride the coattails of this event?
Good.
A lot of it was like a councilman in the area where the race started. We started the race course. The beginning is, at Total Landscaping, which is in Tacony section of Philadelphia. There's Tacony, Bridesburg, and Port Richmond.
Yeah.
And the running route that I did was going, the first 7 miles were through that area. And traditionally, they're not a very runner-friendly area. People just don't run through there because they see 95, they see it as an industrial area.
Yeah.
And I went and I'm like, no, there's paths here. There's a really nice area. It's along the river. And that's how I routed it. And everybody was like really nice about that. The councilman's assistant reached out and said, hey, do you want us to get a permit, close off streets, anything you need? Do you want us to reach out to local businesses for drink specials? And this was before it went completely virtual. And I said, thank you so much. And how about next year? Because we don't want large groups gathering, but this sounds amazing as we go forward. We would love some community outreach and input. So the surprise was a lot of people reached out to help. the person at Total Landscaping, the owner, reached out to me, and I was a little bit wary at the time because I honestly didn't know what their take on the whole thing was.
Right.
I didn't know if they were staunch, Trump and Giuliani supporters. They did this for that. They didn't, and I didn't know that at the time. So he was really nice when he reached out. He's like, "Hey, I saw you're doing this thing." And I'm like, "Hey, we want to be respectful. We're going to have people show up." I told them to be respectful. If you need anything, if you're going to sell shirts, feel free. We just want, and again, I kept reiterating, we want this to be a positive event, a lot of fun for people. And if there's anything we can do to ensure that, let me know. And then on the opposite end at Four Seasons Hotel, again, which I didn't know what would happen there, but the only thing I did know was, hey, that's our finish line in front of one of the most prestigious hotels in Philadelphia. So the smart thing I did was I ran the run itself started at Saturday morning and went through Sunday night. I went out at 8:00 Saturday morning. I think I was probably one of the first 10 people to run it. I finished the 11 miles, show up at the hotel, and there were already a couple of people finished. I was talking to them. Head of security comes out from the hotel because people are taking pictures right in front of their big, beautiful wall that says Four Seasons. His name was Joseph. He couldn't have been nicer. He said, "Hey, this is great, guys. Just do what you do. The only thing we ask is don't pull up in the driveway with your cars to get out and take pictures because this is, our business and we need to cater to guests. But anything you need, let us know." The next day I went down there. Another one of their head of security teams was helping people take photos. It was so awesome, so nice. So, the surprises were, I'd say overall, people were really, really nice and supportive. Again, as you mentioned, haters before there's going to be haters. Again, I saw very little.
That's great. That's great. Well, we could align it with our illustrious sports fandom. Don't mess with us. We'll get gritty in there and drop you.
Yeah, right.
No, I love that collaborative nature, and it does speak to the city and the surrounding communities because once a great idea takes off, it's often the case of, hey, let's make this even more fun. I love that the security team jumped right in. That's fantastic.
Oh yeah, and when they walked up to me, I'm like, uh-oh. And
here we go.
I put on my, hey guys. And I think the part of the anonymous nature of this is like, hey, who started this run? Myself and my partner, podcasting partner, Chip Chantry. Like when I'm there at the race and I'm with people and this guy walks up, people are talking to me about it. And then eventually I have to say, well, yeah, I'm the guy who started it. And they're just like, everybody, again, people were so nice. Like, oh my God. And the nice part was everybody to a person said, we're doing this next year, right? We're doing this next year.
That's the big question. So
yeah.
Yes. Excellent.
So I think the onus is on us now. How are we going to do this next year? We have this momentum. Of course, as you know, marketing momentum dies down.
Sure.
10 months from now, we may not be talking about it, but like good marketers, we got a list of people. We have over 2,100 people subscribed to the run. So we have that list and we said, hey, we'll reach out when we're thinking about 2021 Fraud Street.
Yeah. And, your email database is gold. So, and it seems like a lot of like-minded, positive, let's do something, accomplish something together, like-minded people. Goodness, you could even think of things throughout the year.
That's definitely,
mind,
Yeah, Michelle, that's like something we really have to like sit down and figure out. How do you subtly keep the message out there, keep it going without being annoying? Like, there's so many, viral moments that you get sick of, and you don't want to ever kind of become part of that. So I think the thing now with Chip and I and the Fraud Street, we love the energy around it. We're going to let it subside for, a while until we can figure out how we come back and say, hey, in 2021, in the fall, this is how we're going to do it. We still want to keep that kind of DIY guerrilla feel and nature to it, where it's you guys show up, here's the course, but we might add things like, hey, and there's drink specials at these 3 restaurants who are help supporting, sponsoring, and donating to this cause. They're going to work with us. The city of Philadelphia might work with us here. But we never wanted to turn into like, nothing against corporate things, because as a runner, I'm involved in a lot of corporate sponsored events that wouldn't happen without their backing. And it's something that, I value. So it's that fine line of where we want to take it and how.
Right. No, definitely. Definitely. I know here so I'm based up in Telford, but in Souderton, the senior center has an annual reindeer run, and, everyone's decked out in their ugly Christmas sweaters.
That's awesome.
All kinds of things, and antlers running around town. It just makes it fun.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. I love the virtual part of it too, that allows people to participate from wherever they are. That is fantastic. I love that.
That helped us out so much because, it was low effort. Again, if you're, you want your customers or your clients to partake in something, or people to partake, try to make it as easy as possible for them. And the thing about this was, I've been distance running for pretty much my whole adult life. And I realized 11 miles is pretty daunting for someone who just wants to go out and run. It's very daunting. The Broad Street Run is 10 miles and you train for that for months. So asking people to do something like this, but on their own terms, so they could go run. And a lot of people were doing this, and it was great. Hey, I ran 3 miles on Saturday, 5 miles on Sunday, and I'm going to walk 2 more tomorrow. Broad Street Run finisher. And I'm like, hell yeah, that's
perfect.
You did it.
That's fantastic.
And the fun part was, and my wife was kind of monitoring it for me. She's like, yeah, someone just did it in Singapore. Someone just did it in the UK. And people are so funny and creative, especially runners in general. I'll be completely honest with you. Runners can be some of the most annoying people in the world. I think we all know that. Talking about their training, their half marathon training, you're going to get muted for 30 days if you keep this up. I know it. I'm one of those people. But runners can also be, very funny. And people were finding Four Seasons in their area. So this 2 guys in Arizona found the Four Seasons Hotel in Arizona, and then Four Seasons golf store 15 miles apart, and they ran it, and then they posted about it.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I love it.
That's so cool. So
that's awesome.
So Singapore, is that the farthest location?
Yeah, so far we had China and Singapore. I think they're the 2 furthest. And then, Japan, I believe. But it's weird when you go online and you try to follow a hashtag, you never see all of them, especially now with Instagram, which I'm not fully versed, only show you partial. But now I'm going on and clicking a link in Facebook for Broad Street Run, and I'm seeing all these posts that I haven't seen before, and they're great. And I'm just like, hey, sorry I didn't see this, but we appreciate your support. And another thing, with email and people posting online, I try to respond to every single person.
That's amazing.
Oh yeah, you can't do that.
just as a simple an emoji you crushed it. We're so happy because we know these people gave at least $10 and were part of, they're the reason that we, the Broad Street raised $54,000. It wasn't really us. It was these people just giving their hard-earned money during a difficult time to help people.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So tell us about your podcast, because as fellow podcasters, we want to give a shout out.
Yeah.
To wrap things up. So I've listened to some episodes. It is fun.
Yeah. We're the genesis of this, and I think you guys will appreciate this. 5 years ago, I tweeted out jokingly, hey, I have a great idea for a running podcast. We interview people while we run. And that was who the hell would do that? And Chip, my co-host, he's a professional comedian in Philadelphia. He just texted me, hey, let's do it. Because I knew Chip ran, his wife ran. I'm like, do what? He's like, we'll run around the River Loop, the art museum area in Philly, and we'll just get guests and we'll interview them. So the first 2 years of our podcast, we literally went out with a microphone attached to our phone. I was in the middle. I'd have a guest on my left, Chip on my right, and we would run 3 people wide. And while we were running, I'm just moving the microphone back and forth, back and forth, back and
Oh
forth.
my gosh. It's like Between Two Ferns, but on the
Oh,
road.
yes. Even lower production value. And
love it.
it worked great in some instances. In some instances, as you would imagine, it failed horribly due to like ambient noise, just things we never thought about. Hey, we were running on rustling leaves. Now we can't use 30 minutes of this podcast. So as our podcast evolved, and I think the funny Chip always says this, Jeff, we're running out of guests. I have all my comedian friends. 1% of comedians run. 2% are healthy. So we're not going to get guests who want to run with us. So we had to change the format to an occasional run. Pretty much right now, we're sit down, Chip and I Zoom each other. We bring people in. And now we're just, and now we realize we're a little casual about the podcast because he's busy, I'm busy. It was just like kind of something we like to do. It wasn't like something we needed to do, but now we're on a every 2-week schedule. We're bringing in guests. And it's just fun. I mean, we describe ourselves as, a comedy podcast that basically focuses on, pop culture, music, TV, and running. So it's been going well, and it's fun. As you know, it's fun to talk to each other about things that you're passionate about.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah.
It sure is.
And the one thing that I want to ask you guys, this is the question that as we're progressing, we don't know whether to continue. And what we do is because we like to introduce so much technology into a podcast that we're going to fail at one point. So right now, Chip and I will Zoom. When we get on our Zoom call, then we integrate that with Facebook. So we have to click through to Facebook, post it live on Facebook, because we realized having the interaction, right away, that dynamic interaction where we'll have like 10 or 20 people join us in the chat, we can play off that, and that's kind of fun.
Ooh.
It's also kind of distracting. So especially for
That
2
sounds
people who are
fun.
easily distracted like young kittens, we've realized that we'll start a topic, one person will say something, and we've lost that topic forever.
Well, I say you're brave for going the Zoom video route, because I know Karen and I, sometimes we record our podcast and I'll speak for myself. I'm not ready for video at the moment. Can we just do this?
Chip and I have faces for video, for audio, as we say, and sometimes we bravely go on video.
Well,
I think what we like about that, like I said, is the interaction's nice, but it involves an extra bit of technology where you can have a failure. And luckily, people, we're goofy. So people, when they see us, hey, are we live? Are we live? Oh my God, are we live? Hey, we're live.
Right.
I think they come to expect that.
Do you guys use Be Live for that? Because I love that platform for streaming to multiple places. That it's awesome.
Yeah, you know what? I did Be Live for a couple of episodes. I was just doing a private podcast for friends and family when the pandemic hit, and I really liked that, but we haven't went back to it. I mean, that's a great way to have, not via Zoom, have 2 people go on, have graphics, put up your logo, add poll questions, all of that. So yeah, we are actually looking for a better solution now where you can actually not only, I think the key is, you record it and then you want to go to YouTube or Facebook at the same time.
Right.
That brings in more technology like Be Live.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it elevates your reach, which is
totally.
key.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think you've planted a seed of inspiration with us. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Hair and makeup. Here we go.
It's one thing to walk clients through doing all of this and another to do it yourself and find the time. So we thought, let's just master being consistent and doing this and figuring it out. And I feel like I'm still learning so much because we're we're creeping up to 100 episodes, but we haven't been on that long. So we've been successful in sticking to a weekly schedule. So I was not sure about myself when we started.
That's the number one. I always tell people the number one thing you could do in starting a podcast, and we don't do it, but I know this is what you should do. Be consistent, set goals. Every week, every 2 weeks, we're going to be dropping the episode at Tuesday at 9 a.m. Like me, like I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, it's Wednesday. I'm going to listen to the Office Ladies podcast to start off the day. Oh, it's Thursday. I'm going to listen to this other podcast. So, when you set, user expectations that way, you don't want to disappoint people. And that's the first thing you do at your podcast is just stick to it no matter how hard it is. You had a rough day, you got to get an episode out, just get the episode out and be honest about it. Be like, hey, I really don't feel like being here, but we love you guys. And that's why we're here.
It's almost like a workout or a run, once you're in it.
Totally.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. But with a run, once you get going, like there are days that you're like, but you always know that as soon as your feet hit the pavement, you're good.
That's the one thing about like running, like, you have every other day is a bad day or a good day, but however cold you are, I always say like, you're going to warm up in 5 minutes and you're just going to be outside. You're going to see a squirrel run in front of you, hear some birds, and you're going to be away from the house and the screens, and you're really going to enjoy it. And then, eventually people joke about the runner's high. It's not really a runner's high. It's more of just a bit of really good contentment, like those endorphins release, dopamine. I don't know what either one of those two, but it's just that great calming effect that it has on you after you just get out there. And that's one of the things that drives me.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. My yoga instructor always says when she starts class, you just did the hardest part, which was getting here.
Yes.
100%. Yeah. And it's so true because you think of a million reasons. I'm too tired. But once you start, you're so glad you did. Yeah. Well, speaking of, we're so glad you made time for us, Jeff, because we know, my goodness, we were amongst that forest of Gmail. And, but, just thank you so much for starting the run. You certainly helped brighten a dark pandemic and with all the positivity and, Philly rules.
Thank you. And again, it was a complete community effort. I was the guy who, basically started it, but like I said, you call on all the people, to help you out. Yeah. And it was a community driven effort in regards to spreading the word, people just donating, being happy. One lesson learned, and I think you guys might appreciate this. I've been in the web business since like 1995, right? Like I've seen it all. I know things to do. The one thing I did not do, because I just completely slipped my mind, when I got Fraud Street Run out there, I made it part of our podcast website, figuring it would be a nice, fits in with our running. I did not get the domain fraudstreetrun.com. Think about it. And then like 7 days later, I said, oh my God, well, I know I don't have it now. So I went on and I see fraudstreetrun.com was taken. And I'm like, oh boy. I typed in fraudstreetrun.com, redirected to our page on our website, the exact page. So there's some nice soul out there who bought the domain and redirected it to our website. And I say nice soul, hopefully that's how it will stay. Or knowing, the world of the internet, I will get an email probably a month from now saying, hey, hope you noticed I have this domain and it's been going to the website. How about $10,000 if you want? So right now, I don't know. I'm hoping for the magnificence of this person will continue. I went online, did some sleuthing. They hid their name in the Who Is directory. So that was one lesson learned. If you have a good idea, you have the wherewithal at that moment, grab the domain.
That's right. It's $10 you won't regret.
Oh yeah. And then secondly, with the t-shirts, which is really funny, I put them up on a site called T Public, very reputable site. A lot of people, you upload your design, they take a cut, they give you a cut, and we raised an additional $8,000 via t-shirt sales that we're donating also.
Incredible.
Nice. I love it.
Oh my goodness. Yes, you're over 60,000.
Yeah. And you can't, but the thing is, you can't kind of copyright something that quickly. So there are over 20 different Fraud Street Run t-shirts also on the site by different companies trying to make money.
Well, yeah, we'll have to make sure that people know that the original Fraud Street Run really about charity, and you guys supported a very worthwhile organization that is helping people that the need with hungry families here is so great that I loved that you were supporting this particular charity, because I think that probably really hit home for a lot of people, that we have so much food insecurity in this nation of ours, a nation of such great abundance and waste, and yet people are going hungry.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, my goodness, I can't say enough, how this idea of fun has just been such a great force for good, not just in our region, but inspiring so many others. So, we thank you so much, Jeff, and to Chip and everyone involved for doing that. And yeah, thanks for spending so much time with us today. We really appreciate it. This was fun.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Karen. I had a ball too. Thank you so much.
Great.
Yeah, we'll make sure that in our show notes we put all of the links so that people know you can find the Junk Miles podcast.
That's right, Junk Miles with Chip and Jeff. Check it out after you listen to us, of course.
Yes.
And of course, we want to hear from you. Hit us up at soloprpro.com with your thoughts. Please subscribe, share. And hey, and also, if any of our listeners ran the Fraud Street Run, let us both know. So until next, right? And until next time, thanks for listening to That Solo Life.